Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the EdgeWeb new DNS Management Portal. You can access this management portal from support.edgewebhosting.net. As you can see up here, it's encrypted with SSL, so you need HTTPS. When you first get here, you'll be greeted by the login prompt. In this case, my username is new user with the appropriate password, and I'm going to go and log in. Once you get here, you can go to Manage DNS, and this is where you're going to be able to add, modify, or delete zones related to your organization. So when we click this, we'll see that any zones that have been associated with your organization are listed here. If you are a pre-existing customer and you do have a zone hosted with us on our name servers that's not pointed here, let us know and we can associate that for you. However, if you created the zone after we created this portal, you automatically have the zones listed here. So in this case, I have a pre-existing zone called testing456.com. I'm going to go ahead and click this zone to edit the properties related to it. And once we do so, you'll see that it brings up some default settings that you can't change via the portal. If you absolutely needed them changed, you can submit a ticket with us or call us and we can change them for you. Those things are the zone name, the time to live, the expiration, refresh and retry intervals, and then how many times the zone's been modified, which would be the serial number. So if we look at the properties here, you'll see that I have our A record, which is a standard host record for the domain. Notice that the host column is blank, which means it's just for the testing456.com domain with no subdomains in front of it. Below that we have the MX record, which is a preference of 10 and pointing to my mail server. Notice this is pointing to mail.testing456.com. If you look below, we have our CNAME, which is an alias for mail.testing456.com, which is actually pointed to my mail server or some sort of relay server or whatever you wanted to make it. That would mean that when anybody delivers mail to testing456.com, looks at the MX record, which is then delivering it to this mail server. Then below we have the www record. You can choose to do this with a host record or with a CNAME. Most of the time we usually do them with host records. There are some occasions we do them with the CNAME, especially if you're using CDN services or something of that nature. And then you can really create any other records you want. So these are pre-existing. If I wanted to change one of these records, so this one was changing to a different IP for some reason, you could just type it in and hit commit changes down below, and those would then commit the changes for you. If you needed to add a new record, you could do so by clicking new record up here, but before we do that, let me just delete a couple records. You can actually delete any of these with the exception of the name server record. Those are, if you're using our name servers, if you have a zone hosted with us, then you'll have to have those records there, which is why you can't modify or delete them. You'd have to actually you'd have to delete the zone to get rid of those. So I'll just delete a couple records here, commit those changes. And once that's deleted, you'll see that I only have one record remaining. You wouldn't really leave it this way in real life. Just having a www record doesn't normally make sense, so we'll go ahead and add in the default zone record. Now notice defaults to an A record. You could pick A, CNAME, MX, SRV, or text. And then if I didn't want a subdomain to be in front of this, because it's just my default root record, then you just leave that blank, and then in the data field, we'd go ahead and put the IP address, which would normally be the same location as the www record. In this case, I want to add a couple more records before I'm done here. So I'll create another CNAME, and we'll make this one mail like you saw before, and we can point it to mymailserver.domain.com. Create another new record with the MX. Notice it gives us the appropriate fields. You can make the preference whatever you want. In this case, I'll just do 10 again, and then the mail server will point to that mail record that I'm creating, which again is just an alias pointing to mymailserver.domain.com. Then let's say we wanted to add a SPF record, sender policy framework, to help messages get better spam scores. We can insert that in here. Equals SPF1, AMX, IP4, and we'll just pretend I have a mail server IP located here that I want to permit, and make it a soft fail. And then we can save those settings again by just clicking commit changes. And then we'd have our new zone in place. Once that's there, let's say you wanted to add another zone, you can actually just click back to manage DNS. This will take us back to our zone listing, and we can do a new zone, which will prompt me for the domain name. So make it testing789.net and hit create zone. And again, you'll notice that once this comes up, the only records we'll have in place are the name server records, ns1.edgewebhosting.net and ns2.edgewebhosting.net. Once we have this zone in place, you can just add new records. So we'll just add our default root 1. And we'll add this time we'll make the www record a CNAME pointing to that root 1. And we'll commit those changes. And honestly, it's a pretty easy to use interface. If you have a decent understanding of DNS, there's nothing really too crazy here. If you did need another record added that you didn't see listed in the new records field, you could contact us. This might be for a pointer record or other types that aren't listed here. And that pretty much wraps it up. It's a new interface, and we hope you like it. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call or submit a ticket. Thanks for watching.